Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company that you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, there's nobody better in the business to work with than the great people over at Briar Greaves Insurance. For more information, visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day to everybody. So we are on our third episode of the Pewter Report podcast this week. We are turning our attention to the defensive side of the football. Continue our Bucs training camp preview, with training camp starting a week from today. Next Wednesday is when the Bucs will first be hitting the field, I believe. And today we're going to talk about defensive tackles, outside linebackers, and inside linebackers. We'll talk about the top players, maybe some training camp competition, some final spots on the roster as well, and all that good stuff. And, of course, we'll answer questions and comments, too. So shout out to everybody that is joining the show in the comments. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is SR, Scott Reynolds of PewterReport.com. Scott, we knew you were going to be here because we're talking about defense.
I know. I'm not going to be here tomorrow, though, when we finish up with the defensive backs. But I think Adam Slavon and you would do a good job at that. But you know me. I like defensive line. I love sacks and pressures and blitzing linebackers and edge rushers and defensive tackles. So we're talking my language here today.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty excited to talk about that with you, Pewter people. Greatly appreciate all the support. We are about 350 subscribers away from 20,000 right now. That's a huge number that we're going to hit during training camp, and we're pretty excited about that. So just wanted to remind everybody, if you have not had a chance, maybe this is the first Pewter Report podcast that you've ever seen, well, welcome. And we're going to be doing these podcasts 4 days a week during the season. But what's our schedule, Matt? Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays during the season.
During the season, yes. But then we have a Pewter pregame show, which is the morning of the game. Our Pewter Game Day stream, which is us reacting live to everything going on in the game. So that's 3-4 hours long, depending on how long the game goes. And then we have a Pewter post game show as well. So very action-packed on those Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays, whenever the Bucs are playing. But tons of content throughout the whole week.
Yeah, and some training camp weeks we'll be doing 5 podcasts a week because there's practices on certain days and whatnot. And we always do like a Monday podcast. So we're looking forward to that. Just a couple of quick announcements before we get started today. We do have tomorrow's show. It's going to be 4 o'clock, and we're going to be talking about the Bucs secondary and special teams. Cornerback, safeties, and special teams. August 4th, we are going to be having a very special guest. And we talked about this in yesterday's show. And it is going to be legendary Bucs coach Tony Dungy will be joining the show. That's on August 4th. It's a Monday. So make sure that you set your calendars to that. Don't miss that episode. That's going to be great. We had Coach on last year, and it was fantastic. Works for NBC Sports now, still lives in Tampa Bay, still roots for the Buccaneers. And we're going to be excited to pick Coach's brain about what he thinks about Todd Bowles' contract extension, the upcoming season. And we'll go down memory lane, too, for some of his Bucs moments as the team celebrates 50 years of existence. So that's going to be a fun one. Also, too, we have a Pewter Insider coming up for you on Friday. Don't have a graphic built yet, but we're going to have one at 1:30. And a special announcement. For those of you who have visited the PewterReport.com website during training camp the last several years, you know we do a training camp diary series with a couple of Buccaneer players. We pick a player on offense and a player on defense. And we also pick a rookie and a veteran. So we kind of get different perspectives from different avenues, right? And in years past, we've had Tristan Wirfs as a veteran offensive player. Last year, we had Bucky Irving as a Buccaneer offensive rookie. And let's see, we've had Kalijah Kancey as a Bucs rookie on the defensive side. We had Marquise Watts last year as a veteran on the defensive side. So this year, we've got a couple of really cool people that I think you're going to be excited about. On offense, it's going to be veteran tight end Payne Durham is going to be the contributor for the Bucs training camp diary on pewterreport.com. I'm going to be interviewing Payne before the start of training camp, and he's going to be telling us what he's been doing this summer, how the offseason went, what his goals are for year 3 in Tampa Bay for him, and can he fend off Devin Culp for tight end 2? Can he hang on to that job? Caught his first 2 touchdowns last year. He's a great interview, so we're excited to have Payne Durham joining us at pewterreport.com, and we'll be having that series on a weekly basis all the way through training camp. So the first installment will be before training camp, probably Tuesday of next week. And then on the other side of the ball, because, we have to pick a defensive player too. And because we have a veteran offensive players, we're going to go with a veteran rookie player, and that's going to be David Walker. Had a chance to catch up with David the other day. Going to be interviewing him on Friday. That's probably going to run Sunday or Monday on pewterreport.com. So we're super excited to have Bucs pass rusher David Walker. He is going to be the subject on the defensive side of the ball and give us that rookie perspective. Get his thoughts on what's it like being roommates, with his new Buccaneer teammate, whoever that may be. What's it like to play with Hassan Reddick in practice and go up against guys like Luke Gedeke and Charlie Heck, who are going to be the veterans that he's going to face. So really excited about this series, Matt. I think it's going to be fun. We've got a couple of really interesting training camp stories to tell. And both these guys, Payne Durham and David Walker, are going to see a lot of playing time in the preseason games.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to each of these. Payne Durham may go a little bit under the radar because he's not the starter at tight end on this team. That, of course, is Cade Otton. But he is a funny dude. Like, if you watch any of the Bucs social media clips, they'll ask you who's going to win the NBA Finals when that came around, or when there was that viral thing, 100 people against a gorilla, who could win there? I would go back or maybe it was 1,000 people, but Payne Durham had a very funny answer to that one. So I think he'll provide great responses, is going to play a lot. And, certainly I think there's a lot of wisdom to get from the tight end room in terms of, how is Cade Otton as a leader? What is that competition like? With Payne Durham and Devin Culp, and can Payne Durham crack into the lineup a little bit more, getting a bit more playing time as well? And then David Walker, I'm intrigued to see how he's feeling, first of all, because he did not participate in mandatory minicamp. And then, of course, what's it like playing with Hassan Reddick, who's a seasoned veteran who has accomplished so much in his career? And, Yaya Diaby came on the show and talked about his own leadership wanting to improve. Has Yaya really taken on that role? We'll see it from the eyes of someone else. And, he's a pretty good interview too, just, from the draft and other times that we've had him briefly. So I think these are 2 great choices, and I'm excited for the fans to be entertained by it.
Yeah. It's a fun series to do. We get to know the players a little bit better, and it's cool because we do these interviews and we kind of do it and we formulate them kind of like in first person to where they're really talking to you guys. And I'm really excited to have both these guys on the pewterreport.com website. Also, too, if you haven't been to pewterreport.com lately, check it out, because we're about to get cranking with a lot of training camp content. We've been having some really good series lately. Josh Capo had a really good feature on Charlie Heck yesterday. Bailey Adams has been doing Bucs storylines with a lot of star players, one every single day. And I'm getting ready to put out tonight, as we get closer to the top 10 Buccaneers of all time, according to Pewter Report. We've got our list of the top 50 Buccaneers. I want to say I've done 6 articles now, maybe five or 6, and we're getting ready to get into the top 10 over the next couple of days. So make sure you check out pewterreport.com if you haven't. Lots of great content on the website, and a lot more coming starting next week.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, next week it's going to pick up even more because training camp will be underway. We'll get to see every Buccaneers player reporting, who's doing the best, who's doing the worst. But today, since we are still a week out from training camp, we're going to talk about the Bucs defense, and specifically their D-line, their outside linebackers, and their inside linebackers as well. And I think each position group, Scott, kind of gives their own intriguing storyline. There's a couple of heavy hitters and players that we know are going to be huge parts of their respective room, but I think a lot of intrigue and interesting questions as well when it comes to each group.
Yeah, I think so too. When you look at that outside linebacker room, it's kind of funny because when I asked Todd Bowles during the mini camp, which position is the most loaded on offense and defense. Those in the wide receiver room, running back room, that was no surprise, right? But when he said the inside linebacker room,
Yeah.
I was like, I expected him to say the outside linebacker room just because it is a bit star-studded, maybe, but it has a lot of potential, probably the most potential of any of those rooms. And I think part of the reason why is because Larry Foote is the outside linebackers coach now. But it really starts with that defensive line. And when you look at the outside linebackers, they're a part of that. Hassan Reddick is a huge signing for this team to be able to get that veteran pass rusher that can do two things: threaten the quarterback on a down in, down out basis when he's in there. He's got experience as a 4-time double-digit sacker, 2-time Pro Bowler. Gosh, the guy was making a run for the NFL MVP in Philadelphia during one of those Pro Bowl seasons. And when he was helping the Eagles get to the Super Bowl and they lost in a shootout game against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. If this guy can recapture his format, he can be that double-digit sacker that they need. And also, too, a really good mentor to guys like Yaya Diaby and Chris Braswell and David Walker and the rest of the young room that has some talent, but some untapped potential.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I got to say, I'm getting more and more revved up for Hassan Reddick. I was watching a highlight tape of him the other day, and it wasn't even just his Eagles highlights. It was stuff he was doing with the Panthers, with the Cardinals, and, of course, the Eagles as well. And the more and more I watch him, it's just crazy how much he can take over a game. And, yeah, he was an MVP consideration at one point in his career, and he was in the Defensive Player of the Year category as well. And I'm not going to say that Hassan Reddick is going to get into the Myles Garrett and TJ Watt universes at this point of his own career, because we do have to acknowledge what happened last season with the New York Jets. But the more that I watch him, not even at Bucs practice, because we've seen so little of just what any defensive player can do at this time of the year, but the more you see how he can dominate and take over games, I really think it's going to be a sense of his ability is going to impact everybody, whether it's the interior defensive line that we'll talk about, whether it's Yaya getting some one-on-one opportunities, even brief pointers that like Chris Braswell can get, and David Walker, of course, are going to be so important. And if Hassan Reddick is anywhere near what he was getting those double-digit sacks, this is going to be the most terrifying defensive front in the entire league, because teams are going to have to decide who you want to double team, but who you're going to leave out on an island. And somebody's going to be on an island out of those four guys.
That's right.
In this picture. So, with everything, of course, it's how healthy can they be and the availability. But if Hassan Reddick is anything like what he used to be, you don't even really have to worry about the rotation as much, because you're just going to lean on Hassan Reddick that much more.
Yeah, I agree. And two, it's going to be really fascinating to see how he can fit in with this team. He wants to be a leader. He wants to be a mentor, and he's reunited with Larry Foote, and I think that's going to make a big difference. I really see that relationship being a catalyst for a resurgent year for Hassan Reddick. And then you look at a guy like Yaya Diaby, who went to the SAC camps this summer and is really diligent in terms of wanting to be a better leader and really step up in that area. And of course, you got to be able to produce to do that. And he kind of caught fire at the end of the year. He was the NFL Defensive Player of the Week against the Saints. Really had a good game there. I think the arrow's pointing up for this guy. Larry Foote, I think, can unlock that missing link that has kept Yaya Diaby from the quarterback and resulted in a lot of pressures, but not enough sacks. And I think we're going to see more of those pressures being converted to sacks this year.
I hope so. And we're at least at a point with Yaya in his career, and it's still a very early and young career, but we're at least at a point where we know he can play in this league. He can play at a pretty high level and give you solid production, a guy that you can rely and trust on. I don't know if you're going to guarantee he's going to get to the quarterback on every third down situation, but he's good at stopping the run. He's going to stay in position. He doesn't do anything too out of control and can, kind of stick to his fundamentals. The biggest question for him is, can he cut off a quarter of a second, a half second, a full second, and get to that quarterback before the quarterback releases the football? Because to me, that was the biggest issue in Yaya's game. When I say issue, I just mean in terms of what we look for with an outside linebacker, which of course is sacks.
Yep.
We can look at the tackles for loss. We can look at the QB hits. We can look at the forced fumbles and tackling the running back, and all that stuff is great and super, super important. I don't want to belittle all the other aspects of the game, intangibles, all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're an edge rusher, you are going to be judged by your sacks, for better or for worse. There's not one edge rusher in the NFL that made the Hall of Fame that was just known as a good run-stopping tackles for loss guy.
Solid all around.
Yeah. Oh, he's a Swiss Army knife. He can do a little bit of it all. That's just not the case. And Yaya Diaby's not a Hall of Famer, at least not at this point. But if you want to be judged like a top-level edge rusher, maybe Yaya doesn't have to be that because of Hassan Reddick, but if he wants to be judged like one, well, then the sacks have to come along with it. And if you want that reputation, that's what you have to do this year. If you want to be known as a solid guy, well, I think Yaya's reached that point, but Yaya will be the first guy to tell you that there's more that he wants from it. And we could see more of that sack celebration that you'll see in just a moment.
Yeah, that's such a cool when he does that Sub-Zero right there. That is awesome. That's good stuff. We love Yaya, friend of the program.
Diaby.
Three-time friend of the program.
Yeah, that's right. But you know what? It's not just those two guys. This team has really been talking up Chris Braswell all off season about him making a big leap this year. And that certainly seems logical because usually that biggest jump that you see in players' games is from the first to the second year. And Braswell is a player that has just been diligently working. He's put his nose down. He's kind of a quiet guy. He's got ability, was a bit of a late bloomer at Alabama because he had to wait his turn. So I think with Larry Foote, again, you're going to see this guy really accelerate this learning curve in this year. And he's going to get a lot of playing time. We're not going to see a lot of Hassan Reddick, Matt. We're not going to see a lot of Yaya Diaby in the preseason. This is going to be probably in one or two of these games, starting Chris Braswell and starting David Walker or Anthony Nelson, right? But Chris Braswell is going to get a lot of playing time in this preseason. And I don't think he got enough playing time last year. I think George Edwards kind of slighted him a little bit and stunted his growth by playing Joe Tryon-Shoyinka way too much. Well, Jason Light took care of that. We're not re-signing Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. So that is going to help pave the way for more PT for Chris Braswell.
I think it's going to be sink or swim for Chris Braswell because right now, he did not get a lot of playing time and he probably should have got a little bit more. But I don't know. There's nothing right now that's like, oh, Chris Braswell does this pretty good. He doesn't have like incredible size or anything like that. He certainly has a good amount of speed. The best thing Chris Braswell has going for him is that he has that track record of waiting in the wings to eventually become the guy, and then he becomes the guy. I don't know if that's the best trait to have. Like, hey, you develop eventually. But at this point, he is going into his second year, so he has a little more time to still develop. I think by the end of his third season, we'll truly have an answer for Chris Braswell. But as I've kept saying on this show throughout the off season, I think Chris Braswell is an important key to seeing how good this Bucs overall defense can be. Because yes, it is going to be Yaya and Hassan Reddick, but can the Bucs truly get that second wave of pass rushers and things like that? We'll find out with David Walker, and we'll certainly find out with Chris Braswell, because I think we know what we have with Anthony Nelson. We've been watching him since 2019, 2020, since Anthony Nelson has been with this team, and he'll make a couple of plays here and there, but the future of this pass rush is all about Yaya for sure.
That's right.
But more specifically, David Walker and Chris Braswell. So can Chris Braswell prove why he was a second-round pick?
Yeah.
I don't really know just yet, because even with David Walker, we're like, oh my God, he's got great bend, he's got a great first step. We were never saying that about Chris Braswell last year. Chris Braswell was a second-round pick. David Walker's a fourth-round pick, and we're already hyping up David Walker more than we ever had Chris Braswell last year. And maybe it was because last year's outside linebacker room, all the pieces were really in place, where this year, yes, Hassan Reddick is here, but he wasn't here last year.
That's right.
David Walker is a new guy. So Braswell is an interesting case study for what he'll be on this team, because he was a second-round pick. That's a lot of great talent, but he's going to get the opportunity in the preseason, and that is very exciting.
Yeah, and the thing is, David Walker is not the biggest guy. He's size-wise about probably 10 pounds heavier than Shaq Barrett. He's like 6 foot, 6'1". I think Larry Foote joked he's like 5'9", but he's not 5'9". He's about 6 foot tall and about 255, 260 pounds. He is that kind of speed, explosive, get-off guy that Hassan Reddick is. And I think Chris Braswell is more like Yaya Diaby, more of like a power player. Maybe not the athletic freak that Diaby is. But, Matt, when you've got kind of speed and power on the first line with Reddick and Diaby, and then you bring in a second line with some really up-and-coming guys in Braswell and Walker, who, if they stay healthy, knock on wood, will play a lot in the preseason and get a lot of experience and reps going up against the three opponents that they're going to be facing in Tennessee, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo. You might have a really solid second line where there's not a whole bunch of drop-off in terms of pass rush ability because, again, Braswell's more of that Diaby power guy, and you've got an explosive guy in David Walker that is more like a heavier Hassan Reddick. And so, and then if Anthony Nelson's outside linebacker 5,
I love that.
Sign me up for that all day long. And then we'll see, right? Can a Marquise Watts or a Jose Ramirez, can they do enough? Can one of these guys get a hat trick game again, like the Jacksonville game when Jose Ramirez went off? Can they do enough to make this team say, gosh, you know what? Watts or Ramirez, they play well enough in special teams, and good pass rushers are hard to find, and Hassan Reddick's on a 1-year deal, and he'll be 31 this year. Let's keep 6 outside linebackers, And Anthony Nelson's no spring chicken. He's not 30 yet, but he's been around. This is his 6th year with the team. But I'm just curious to see. This is do or die for Marquise Watts or Jose Ramirez. They're either going to be gone from Tampa or relegated to practice squad. So they really have to shine. And it's just going to make for a more competitive group, a more competitive unit. Larry Foote at the controls. I like this outside linebacker room despite it being more potential than production right now.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel like even like the floor of this team, I think, is still better at outside linebacker than it was a season ago. And I think it's a really good point about the blend of different skill sets at the outside linebacker position. Like Hassan Reddick's different than Yaya Diaby, and Braswell's different than David Walker. And I think that's really important. I think the biggest competition for me, at least the one that I'm most intrigued in, and I get it with Braswell and Ramirez, like, can they even make the team? But we've seen that plenty of times now where, to me, I think it's Braswell and Ramirez who gets on the practice squad, and the other one might not even be on the team anymore, depending on how they want to fill out the practice squad. I'm curious, 3, 4, and 5 with their edge rushers on the depth chart. If we're assuming Yaya and Hassan Reddick are 1 and 2 in whatever order, that doesn't really matter.
Right.
Is it a legit competition between Braswell and Walker for 3 and 4, or do the Bucs, and we've seen this before with Todd Bowles specifically wanting to make sure he has someone in there at any position that he trusts. Does Anthony Nelson begin the season as outside linebacker 3 because he's steady Eddie, you know what he's going to do, you can put him in situations, or do they roll the dice with a young up-and-comer, whether it's year 2 of Chris Braswell or a rookie season of David Walker? Do they go 3-4 with Nelson 5, or does Nelson begin all the way up at 3 and then kind of moves a little bit back the more that they can trust and put their faith in some of the newer players?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Todd Bowles is no stranger to playing rookies. I mean, he is not afraid to play rookies. And I know David Walker's caught his attention. I got to see over the summer some practice clips from like the team camera angle, the eye in the sky, of some of David Walker's rushes during the rookie minicamp. And granted, it's against, Chump Johnson and Scrub McGee, right? I mean, it wasn't against Tristan Wirfs or Luke Gedeke. And we're not in pads yet, but the explosion, the get off, the bend, it's special. You can see it. It's what you saw on his FCS tape where he was just making guys look silly. He just has. It looks like the world is ending up here in Wesley Chapel. Wow. So if I go bye for a minute, it might be my internet's out. So we're having a massive thunderstorm up here in Wesley Chapel. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I mean, you can just see this guy has special ability. I mean, he can do things that Yaya Diaby can't do. I mean, he really has some crazy bend. And again, kind of reminds you of Shaq Barrett in his prime a little bit, the way Shaq could get to the quarterback and make tackles look silly. So hopefully that shows up on tape with the pads on. And I think it will, because he just kind of has that glow about him, a little bit of an aura. He's a special guy. And again, we're going to be looking forward to interviewing him and presenting David Walker's rookie training camp diary on pewterreport.com this summer.
Yeah, that'll be cool. I wanted to get to this comment from Bat W. Says, if Braswell does not make the team, I would be shocked. The man was a second-round pick, and this is only his second year. You're on crack, man. I don't think I ever said that Braswell was going to get cut. Right. I'm just saying he may slide anywhere from 3, 4, or 5 on the depth chart, but there's no way he's getting cut.
Correct.
I definitely did not say Braswell is getting cut, unless I misspoke. I was talking about Marquise Watson, Jose Ramirez. Right. I think one of them may not even end up on the practice squad and therefore will get cut. But there was by no means was I inferring or trying to give insight on Chris Braswell getting cut, because that is not the case at all. That would be pure.
Yeah, he'll make the team this year.
Clarify that.
But again, it's like we've seen Jason Light bail on some draft picks early. Jake Camarda didn't last his whole time. Neither did first round pick Vernon Hargraves. He didn't see the end of his rookie deal. And Roberto Aguayo got cut after 1 year. He was a second round pick. Chris Braswell will make the team this year, but you know, if he doesn't show signs of life this year, and they've already drafted David Walker, life goes on in Jason Light's world. I mean, he is not one to hang on to mistakes. And we're not saying Chris Braswell is a mistake. There's high expectations. This guy comes through and delivers and performs and levels up. And we'll see if he does that. If he does, he's in great shape. If not, he could slide down that depth chart, like you said, Matt. And if he's entering 2026 as outside linebacker 5, that's not good. Then he'll find himself in Marquise Watson, Jose Ramirez territory next year. But we're anticipating a better year from Chris Braswell, just like we're anticipating a better year from Kalijah Cansey. I mean, this was a guy that kind of boldly said, hey, if I'm healthy for 17 games, look out. I could lead the league in sacks. Todd Bowles didn't go that far. He didn't think he could get to the sack lead in the NFL, because we're talking 17 to 20 sacks. That's typical for the league leader, whoever that may be. Trey Hendrickson last year, I think 17 and a half sacks. That's a sack a game. But he did say Kalijah Cansey, if he stays healthy, could be a double-digit sacker. Bucs haven't had that really since Warren Sapp, since they've had a defensive tackle. Matter of fact, it's only happened 2 other times in franchise history. Sapp was the second one to do it. The first one to do it was Santana Dotson, who was a defensive tackle and did that during his rookie year way back in the early 90s. So had a lot of good defensive tackles. Gerald McCoy is one of them, but he only had 9.5 sacks. Vita Vea topped out last year at 7 sacks, which was a career high. Kalijah Cansey led the team with 7.5. So Matt, hey, if he stays healthy, he very well could lead the Bucs in sacks this year, especially with all the attention on the outside with Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby. Oh, and Vita Vea right next to him.
Yeah, exactly. Like Vita Vea is going to open up so many opportunities for Kalijah Cansey. He already has. I mean, this is, his 3rd year going into the league. But I think other teams were able to counteract that a little bit more because the Bucs didn't necessarily have the firepower out on the edge. And you always want to, protect inside first before the outside. But obviously there's so much attention paid to the outside rushers that an interior defensive lineman doesn't always get that same type of game planning for when a team goes up against him. But Kalijah Cansey has quickly proven that he can shoot the gap like nobody else in this league. And, I think it's tough too. What Kalijah Cansey was able to do, especially as a rookie, after missing the first week of the season, the first month of the season, not playing in any preseason games, and then showing up and like immediately making an impact in his rookie year. That's so tough to do. And then to do it again the second year with no drop off at all. I think one of the biggest things Bucs fans want to see is Calijah Kancey just stay healthy for this entire training camp, because all he does is prove that he can get to the quarterback, can make big stops. He's athletic. They'll drop him back in coverage occasionally here and there. But Calijah
he's going to get a pick. He's going to get an interception before his career is over, before Todd Bowles retires and Calijah Kancey's, I
think he's going to get a defensive touchdown eventually too, because I can see someone knocks the ball up at the line of scrimmage, Kancey catches it, and that's a little bit of luck. I mean, we saw Will Golston get an interception off of Josh Allen 2 seasons ago, but Kancey's got the speed to go and break it all the way to the end zone, depending on how far away they are. So, Calijah Kancey can do a lot of special things on this defense. He just has to be available, because he's proven, he had a sack in the postseason as well 2 seasons ago. He's proven he's ready for really any type of moment when a lot of other people, might wilter a little bit because of the, because of the pressure after not playing for a whole month. But that wasn't the case for Calijah Kancey each season. He is ready to go when he is available.
Yes, for sure. And I think he's going to have he had a breakout year last year, but gosh, just stay healthy, man, and really take off and put the league on notice. I think too, like we talked about yesterday with Graham Barton having that game against Washington where he had the bad snap, Calijah Kancey had Jaden Daniels in his sights, point blank range, and Jaden Daniels was just being Jaden Daniels. And Calijah Kancey, remember, Calijah Kancey didn't play Jaden Daniels in week 1. He missed that game.
Yep.
So he didn't really have an idea of how fast, elusive, and slippery this guy was until he saw him for the first time in the playoff game and missed him again, point blank range a couple times. And that's the game that could drive Calijah Kancey, right? When you're working out in the gym and you've got the dog days of training camp and you're sitting there on the sidelines, you kind of reflect on that and you get pissed off, and it drives you and motivates you. And I think that's not a bad thing. Hey, nobody wanted to see the Buccaneers lose. I get that. But the fact that they did and the way that they did, I think can be a little bit of a personal driver to some of these guys, just like it was for Todd Bowles, Matt. I think that was a catalyst where Todd Bowles made some probable in-game miscalculations, right, in terms of kicking that field goal rather than going for the touchdown. And that helped him get Zach Beesline, who is going to be in there in his ear on game days, up in the coach's box, going over the analytics and helping with that game day, that game management, clock management strategies. And so I think for Calijah Kancey, again, I'm excited to see what he has in store. I think that he is going to kind of take this league by storm this year.
Yeah, he just has to be available. And of course, he gets the benefit of Vita Vea playing next to him as well. And congratulations to Vita Vea. He was listed on the NFL's top 100 players.
Right.
There he is in the new throwback uniform. Coming in at 76. He was one ahead of the Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins at 77. But it's good to see Vita Vea get on this list. That's the second Buccaneer. Levante David was at 96. Vita Vea was at 76, and they're kind of releasing it every single day. So, I'm sure we'll see our Mike Evans. I'm sure we'll see maybe Baker Mayfield at one point or another. So there's more Bucs to come, no doubt about it. But Vita Vea, the dominant presence, the force on this team. I thought, the NFL put out a video giving some highlights from what he did, and a couple players talk about it as well on the video. Tristan Wirfs was there, Jameis Winston. But Jamal Williams, the former Saints running back, was in Detroit for a little bit too. Mm-hmm. He had a very funny comment because he's like, getting tackled by Vita Vea is like when you're playing Pop Warner football and you get tackled and you land on the football and it just knocks the wind out of you. Like it lands on your stomach. The ball, you land on the ground, the ball lands on your stomach, and it just knocks the wind out of you. And you're, gasping for air a little bit and stuff like that. He said that's what it's like getting tackled by Vita Vea. And Chris Lindstrom, the Falcons offensive guard that's gone up against Vita Vea a lot of times, has talked about it's not just the size and the length, but it's the speed as well. And I know we just talked about the speed of Calijah Kancey, and that one's like warp speed, but Vita Vea has a ton of it too. So the size and strength, again, that's why if Hassan Reddick is able to, put it together at the outside linebacker position, same with Yaya Diaby, I don't know how you stop all four, because there's barely teams stopping Vita Vea as it is right now. And then you add in all the, special traits of these other players. And, you might not have to worry about the secondary, because these guys are going to be getting there in 2.5 seconds.
What I like about Vita Vea, right, is he's got the C on the chest. He's 30 years old. He's got a Super Bowl under his belt. Mm-hmm. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, and he came back in great shape, and he had a fantastic season. And he's in great shape again. I think he's really turned a corner in his career. And I think him losing some weight has probably tacked on not just 1 or 2 years on his career, Matt, but taken the last couple of seasons that he'll play in red and pewter and made them even more quality seasons, right? And kind of pushed off, maybe extended his prime and kind of pushed off Father Time a little bit, because he stayed relatively healthy last year. He only missed 1 game. Correct. And that's because Yaya Diaby landed on his knee in Detroit in the second half, and it was just a friendly fire thing. But I was really encouraged by what we saw from Vita Vea. Again, 7 sacks. He and Elijah Cansey were kind of neck and neck in that sack race. And I don't think there's any slowing down with this guy. And he's going to get Charlie Strong coaching him now. Another coach in his ear, a different voice. Sometimes when you have different position coaches, they give you different tools to put in your tool belt. Yeah. And Charlie Strong has been around the block as a defensive coordinator in a lot of different places, a head coach. He kind of commands the room, and I'm really excited to see what Charlie Strong can do with Elijah Cansey and Vita Vea. And, I'm kind of excited about Logan Hall. And I know that he's kind of gotten a bad rap. Buccaneer fans think that, probably a wasted draft pick or drafted too high, underwhelmed, whatever. Listen, he had his best game, I think, of his career against Washington. 7 tackles, was really a menace in that game. And then emerged last year as a pass rusher. 5.5 sacks, career high. Got to Kirk Cousins a couple times. Got to Jalen Hurts. Made life miserable for your favorite quarterback out there in LA, Justin Herbert, Matt. So bring me Logan Hall in a contract year. I want to see what this guy does.
Logan Hall has had an average career with the Bucs, with some above average moments, and I would say hasn't really gone below average. So yes, he was a second-round pick, the first pick by the Bucs when they were on the clock that year. But I don't look at Logan Hall's career as disappointing by any means. I think there's a little bit left to be desired, a little bit more meat on that bone, a little bit. But I think it's important to point out, and Todd Bowles had mentioned this, that Logan Hall isn't playing a lot on third down. So that's why his sack numbers aren't necessarily what you think they would be. If he was playing on third down a lot more, I'm sure those numbers would go up, because he finds a way to get to the quarterback here and there. I think he's solid in the run. He's average in the run game. He's an average player that I think has the ability to be an above average guy. And I think he can do that this year, depending on what Todd Bowles wants to do, in this defense. He's not a star player. He's not going to be the guy that, poses in the new uniform pictures and stuff like that. Right. I'm not sure how great his jersey sales will be, but he's certainly very important to the rotation, of this group. You need, I think, going back to Vita Vea real quick, I think a good thing for Vita Vea is the fact, I know he has different guys coming in when they substitute for him, but the Bucs do a good job of kind of getting him out there in big moments, but also not over. There are times where I wish Vita Vea played a little bit more, but that's because the Bucs have relied on some of their backups. And Logan Hall, while he's not a nose tackle, there are situations where he is in at defensive tackle helping this team, and he can dip outside a little bit as well. So I would love to see him increase his sack numbers, but he would have to play on third down, and that's ultimately up to Todd Bowles. So he may not have the numbers, but he can help the team be functional regardless of who the opponent is.
Yeah, and you know what, Matt? If this team gets back to being really dominant in the run defense area, right? And we've seen this time and time again, like back in 2019, Sean McVay didn't even try to run the ball. I think Todd Gurley had 5 carries, and he had Jared Goff throw the ball 55 times because he didn't want to waste downs trying to run on Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea and Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul and that front four with the linebackers, right? So we might see more games where teams are throwing on first down because they don't want to waste it down. Okay, it's first down. We're going to run the ball. Okay, now it's 2nd and 9. We got 1 yard, and if we run the ball again, all right, it's 3rd and 7. Now we got to throw the ball. And now it's Todd Bowles' time to get into the bag and get these exotic looks and blitzes because 3rd and 7 is a passing down. So we might see teams decide to pass the ball more on first down. And guess what? Todd Bowles likes to blitz on first down because he anticipates that.
Yeah.
But we might see Logan Hall get some more sacks as a result of that. So, that's one kind of thing to keep in mind there. Greg Gaines is back. We didn't see Greg during the
did not participate in OTAs or wasn't there for mandatory minicamp either. But I guess that was excused because
he was there. He's dealing with some sort of injury, undisclosed, but he's been out the entire season. Again, Todd Bowles said we anticipate everybody being there for training camp. Well, Tristan Wirfs is not, so we'll see if Greg Gaines suddenly got healthy over the summer break and if he'll be a part of it. If not, there's this kid down the road that lives in Plant City, played at Florida, big guy, Desmond Watson, that has captivated this Buccaneer fan base. And I'll tell you what, after we had a chance to meet with him in the media, this guy is like a big teddy bear off the field. It plays, well, they're hoping he plays like a grizzly bear on the field, but this guy's really hard not to root for, Matt. He's a likable kid who's trying to play some football, get healthier. I'm really curious to see where he is weight-wise. Pro Day 464, the team had him measured in at 447, and hopefully he's down into the 420s right now. I think he probably has to be close to 400 to have a chance of making the team. We'll see what happens, but Big Dez is going to be a fun guy to watch in camp.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I just wonder if his speed can really hold up. But he is fun to root for. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he's a spectacle. And, the NFL, while wins and losses are the most important thing, winning's the most important thing, it is also an entertainment business. And there's no doubt that it is entertaining when Des Watson is in the game. So that preseason is going to be a ton of fun because he will be participating in that.
That's right.
And I'm curious what type of role he can really have on this team. And of course, one guy that did get drafted by the Bucs because Des Watson was an undrafted free agent, but Elijah Roberts, of course, is also going to be in the mix. A friend of the program, of course, came on the Pewter Report podcast. I'm curious what his training camp and preseason will look like because this is a guy that mostly played on the outside over at Miami and SMU. Now he's going to be moving to the inside. He's certainly going to have the speed and quickness like we talked about with Kalijah Kancey, but can he bulk up and muscle up to deal with the big boys on the offensive line there because speed is one thing, but you got to have the size too. Yeah,
and he's a rock solid like 290. I mean, he's a big guy. Remember when Logan Hall first came to Tampa, he was about 265, and now he's up to 300 pounds, but it took him several years to do that. Elijah Roberts enters the building much closer to being that ideal defensive tackle weight. He's just a thick dude all the way around, and I'm really curious to see how he's going to perform inside. I think he'll probably get some reps on the outside too in certain packages because he's a powerful player who can also rush the passer. Only makes this Buccaneer defensive line unit more dangerous. Our good friend Will Golston, friend of the program, has taken the defensive line coaching job at Sickles High School. But he texted me last night. He's not retired yet, but he's working on a backup plan. So he's going to be coaching the Sickles Griffins defensive line over there. He lives in Tampa, and that's cool to see. I coached 6 years of Pop Warner defensive line, was defensive coordinator for a little bit when my sons were playing. Had a blast doing that. And I know Will, he's great with kids. He is going to absolutely love that. Unless he gets a call from somebody, then he might decide to get one more year's worth of NFL checks. Not a bad thing, and do that. But we shall see what happens with Will Golston. I think he's probably done in Tampa Bay, unless there is a rash of injuries. Just because they drafted Elijah Roberts to really essentially replace Will Golston in that lineup, and you have Logan Hall still in the contract year, so. It seems to me, Matt, when you look at that depth chart, Vita Vea, Kalijah Kancey, there's 2. Logan Hall is 3. Elijah Roberts is 4. Greg Gaines is 5.
Yeah.
There's really only one spot left. And I think right now Desmond Watson is eyeing that spot, and we'll see if he ends up there or if he ends up on the practice squad.
Yeah, I think it's cool that Will is still involved in football, and you never know. I mean, it might not even be with the Bucs. Like, what if the Detroit Lions need a defensive lineman halfway through the season? I mean, everyone knows their defense got obliterated with injuries last year, and of course, he is a Michigan native, so that could be a possibility. And we actually heard Anthony Walker Jr., Bucs inside linebacker, talk about that. He used to coach while also playing as well when he was playing with the Dolphins, because his dad was a high school coach as well. So there is a principle. There's a precedent in place that players have coached teams but also played in the NFL at the same time. So I hope Will is able to latch on with a competitive playoff team, at some point in the season and get another chance at a championship. It'd be cool if it is with the Bucs. But, Will, of course, is a friend of the program and a great guy. So just want to see him successful in one way or another.
Well, speaking of ending careers elsewhere, remember, Ndamukong Suh was not re-signed by the Buccaneers, and went on to Philadelphia and played one final season there. Didn't really have a lot of impact because he really was at the end of his career. Nathan Elliott watched Good Morning Football this morning, and Ndamukong Suh was on. And Suh said that the Bucs were going to trade all of their draft picks to Detroit to draft him. Remember, he went 2nd overall to Detroit. The Buccaneers had to settle for Gerald McCoy at number 3. And that's true. That's a true story. I don't know if it was all of the draft picks. I do know both Mark Dominic and Raheem Morris told me they were trying to trade up to get Ndamukong Suh. The Detroit Lions were absolutely not interested. That was their guy all along. Suh had an absolute wrecking ball performance against Texas in the Big 12 championship game, and was easily one of the top 5 picks in that draft, if not number 1 overall. And but yeah, the Buccaneers, they were okay to draft Gerald McCoy, but they wanted Ndamukong Suh. Matter of fact, I had Ndamukong Suh on the cover of the pre-draft Pewter Report magazine back then. It was a pre-draft issue when we did the magazine. And Raheem Morris called me up. He's like, "Scott, what are you doing? You're killing me, man. We're not going to get Suh. And you're just getting Buccaneer fans all hyped up that we're going to draft Ndamukong Suh or have a chance to. Not happening. We're going to get Gerald McCoy." This was like a couple weeks before the draft, And he was right. And that's exactly the way it happened. So I don't know if they offer Detroit all of their draft picks. Seems a little far-fetched, but
like a Ricky Williams situation.
Yeah, exactly. Like Ricky Williams with the New Orleans Saints. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was a lot. And Detroit said, "Nope, we're going to do that, and you're going to get Gerald McCoy instead."
Well, they ended up getting Ndamukong Suh anyway, just a couple of years later.
And it all worked out in the end because they won
still
a
helped
Super
them
Bowl
win a
with the guy.
championship. So.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. So a couple of other players on the defensive line to kind of mention. Eric Banks, who was with the team last year. He's fighting for that 6th spot. CJ Brewer, who had a couple sacks against the Falcons in that creamsicle game, kind of bounces back and forth between the roster and the practice squad. He's in the mix. Adam Gotsis, who's a 10-year veteran from Georgia Tech. He's been around the league. He's in camp as well. Mike Green played at James Madison. He's been a practice squad guy for a couple of years. Noah Hutmacher from Nebraska is a rookie undrafted free agent, as well as Devin J. Thomas from Penn State. He's in the mix as well. I think those guys probably fighting for some practice squad opportunities. But again, defensive tackle 6 is open, and we'll see if Desmond Watson can stake the claim to that or not. As you said, Matt, it's going to be what happens in the preseason that matters most. Just like when it comes to the world of financial advice, what the folks over at Immuni Financial says, well, that means the most.
At Immuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you? Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it. All right. Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track, so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Immuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Listen, folks, if you have not given Immuni Financial a call, do so today. let today be the day that you decide to give Immuni the call, because they can help you and your family in a lot of different ways when it comes to financial advice, whether it's advisory services, brokerage services, legacy and retirement planning, investment banking, insurance services, annuities. Have got some of the best financial minds in the business. I have worked with them for years. I've got most of my financial assets with Immuni Financial, and just fantastic people to work with. David, Mark, there's some of my best friends over there. They've done me right with my investments for years. And here's the thing. If you have a financial planner, or you have a stockbroker guy that you work with, or a gal, get a second opinion. Treat your finances like you treat your health, right? Make sure you have the most sound investment advice. And they can do that with a free consultation. They can take a look at your portfolios and make some recommendations and see what you have going. And you might decide to switch to Immuni Financial. That might be the case. That's what happened to me several years ago, and that's why I made the switch to Immuni. Give them a call at 1-800-868-6864, or visit them on the web at immuni.com. They're stationed over there in St. Petersburg, but they can help you whether you're in the state of Florida or across the United States, not just Florida. But please give Immuni Financial the call. Tell them Pewter Report sent you, 1-800-868-6864, or visit them on the web at immuni.com.
Before we talk about the inside linebackers, let's give a shout out to our Pewter Platinum members. Thank you so much for your support of pewterreport.com. And thank you to Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zap Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Kevin Thomas, Zach Jarvis, Leighton Carter, the guy is Gifted, Brandon Riley, Alec Bickler, and Nick Dubuque. We appreciate all of you for your support of Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. And thank you for being Pewter Platinum members. And we look forward to speaking to you on Friday with our Pewter Insider, along with our Pewter Premier members as well.
Yeah. And we've got a new Pewter Pulse video that I did that's up on Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. Make sure you check that out. And did you know that if you're a Pewter Pro or Premier or Platinum member, you get early access to our videos? That's right. When we publish those, we put them as members only for the first 30 to 60 minutes. So you get the sneak peek of the video before it goes live to the general public. And that's one way you can help support our Pewter Report channel, Pewter Report TV, by becoming a channel member. And there's 4 different membership levels: the Pewter People, Pewter Pro, Pewter Premier, and Pewter Platinum. And find the level that fits your budget the best and what perks you want the most, and decide to help us continue to grow this channel and do fun things like go up to Pittsburgh, like Matt and Adam are going to do, to cover those joint practices with the Pittsburgh Steelers in August during training camp. So it's a great way you can help support Pewter Report, because all of our travel budget comes from our YouTube channel, and we greatly appreciate the support. We're on the way to 20,000 subscribers too. That's different from our channel members. It's absolutely free to subscribe to Pewter Report TV. Just hit the subscribe button. If you're interested in becoming a Pewter Report TV channel member, that's the join button. So that's the distinction there. We greatly appreciate everyone's support, whether you're just watching the Pewter Report podcast, whether you're a subscriber or a Pewter Report TV channel member.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about these inside linebackers. Interesting group, because everyone we're going to talk about, obviously Levante David's going to be on the team, but with Levante, Servassier, Anthony Walker Jr., Deion Jones, all of these players are making the team. So in terms of, who's fighting for a roster spot, I'm quite intrigued by John Bullock out of Nebraska and Nick Jackson out of Iowa, a couple of Big Ten inside linebackers for this team, undrafted free agents. And then for the players themselves, the 4 guys that are going to be on this team, really the biggest thing I want to know is, is it just going to be Levante David and Servassier, or are we going to see a mix of all of the inside linebackers that we just mentioned?
Yeah, for sure. And Levante David coming back is great, because he's a legend. He leads this defense. He is a rock in terms of being that consistent guy that's not going to get you beat. Still effective in coverage, not the flash that he used to be. I think he's a better blitzer now than he ever was. Just ask Aiden O'Connell there, getting crushed by Levante. But the veteran leadership he has for a guy like Servassier Dennis to come in and have at least 1 year starting next to Levante can just really help propel his career. I remember when Hardy Nickerson and Derek Brooks were that 1-2 punch on the inside for this Bucs defense. It just helped Derek Brooks's career to play next to someone like Hardy Nickerson and just have that experienced guy next to a very talented young player. And, I think Hardy had a lot to do with Derek's success. Derek Brooks was going to be a star regardless, but he ended up being the best player in Buccaneer history, the player that has the most accolades, the most Pro Bowls, all of that, because of the kickstart that playing next to a guy like Hardy Nickerson could do. And we'll see if Servassier Dennis can get to that level, whether he is the next Derek Brooks or Levante David caliber, or if he's maybe a step down where it's like a Shelton Quarles or a Devin White during Devin White's good years. This is going to be a very interesting season to see exactly how good of a player Servassier Dennis can be if he stays healthy.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with him being a good player that isn't Derek Brooks and Levante David. I mean, we're talking about two Hall of Famers and two of the best players at that position in franchise history. That's very difficult to find over and over and over again. So I think there's a way for Servassier Dennis to split the difference. I think he's got to rely on his overall passing coverage ability. And I also want to see him blitz. We haven't seen too much of that because he hasn't really been an every game starter and he's been injured a fair amount. So I think priority number one is stay healthy because he hasn't proven that yet. I'd say priority two is show his ability to take the ball away because he's done it a ton in practice, but if you're not doing it in the game, then, there's only so much fanfare with it. And then I would say priority three for Servassier Dennis specifically is get those number of blitzes up. Obviously, that's more Tom Bowles telling him to do it than him going on his own will about it, his own free will. But I think Servassier Dennis has an ability to be an upper level and an upper tier player. I'm not going to say Pro Bowl or anything like that, but he has the ability to be in a spot where Bucs fans will feel good about after the season with him kind of running the show.
And I think too, with Anthony Walker coming, he's an experienced middle linebacker guy. It's another 30-year-old guy in the room that can impart some wisdom on Servassier Dennis and back up either Levante David at the Mo, which is the money backer spot, or the middle linebacker spot, the Mike spot. Really impressed with the offseason he had. He and Servassier Dennis were the starters during the offseason when Levante David wasn't there. And Deion Jones flashed a little bit in that Commanders loss in the playoffs and made some splash plays in practice too. So yet another veteran guy, 30 years old in that room. I think this team has done a really good job of kind of nestling a young emerging talent in Servassier Dennis with a bunch of aging veterans that still have some juice and still can get it done. And I'm kind of with you, Matt. Let's see all four of these guys. Let's rotate them and not put all that stress and pressure on the bodies of Servassier Dennis and Levante David for an entire season.
Yeah, we're talking about an older player in Levante and a guy with an injury history. Why would you throw him out for every single snap if you don't necessarily need to? And I feel good about Anthony Walker Jr. and Deion Jones. If they got a spot start a game or two, I got no troubles with that at all. So that's a good sign too.
It is. It's a good sign. It's Wednesday. We're getting closer to the end of the week, but we still have another podcast to go. That's tomorrow. The cornerback, safety, and special teams preview. Keep in mind, Tony Dungy is coming up on August 4th during training camp. We're excited to have Coach on, working on John Gruden too. So stay tuned for that. And Matt's going to tell you about how you can check out all of the Pewter Report's coverage in different areas of the wide world web.
Yeah, keep staying tuned. And also, please, if you're not doing so, follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment on this video, too. What position group out of the three we talked about today are you most excited for? Or any way you're feeling about either or any of these players that we discussed today. So that'll do it for us on today's show. For Scott Reynolds, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
Out.